Hi, my name is Tommy Nguyen, and I'll be introducing our Milestone 4. We are Team AMR, and alongside me are Luan, Arthur, and Anikath. Our platform we chose to study is DegreeWorks. We wanted to focus on design, accessibility, and affordability, and the ways we could improve or add to the platform. DegreeWorks is the platform of choice for viewing student credit and graduation status. We believe that the current version of DegreeWorks is counterintuitive when looking at ease of use. It isn't able to be used among all users regardless of ability. The current layout presents those with accessibility needs some key issues that we'll touch on in the design ideas we have proposed. Our solution is a design rehaul, emphasizing accessibility, affordances, and signifiers that add to the experience and provide more awareness of what they are looking at and interacting with. Shown here is our low-fidelity wireframe for the filter course button. We chose the filter course button as an integral part of DegreeWorks because it not only reduces the content that is shown on screen, which increases efficiency and intuitiveness, but it also adds accessibility to those with hard of sight. Reducing content on the screen allows the screen reader to get through everything quicker and allows the user to find what they want faster as well. So, how has this design evolved? As our design progressed, we added more signifiers to add clarity in what the user and those with accessibility needs view. For example, adding a text element that tells the user what is currently being shown on the screen, or adding contrasting colors by changing the text to red. Comparing our first prototype to our final, you can see that there is more clarity on what is being selected or what can be selected. We also see that the colors are being used to signify what is being chosen, alongside a drop shadow on the button itself to show that it is being selected. The testing protocol for this design would be a survey asking if the individual found that the filter button was useful or not, or if they used it during their session. We can observe if the filter button is actively being used using this data. Our second design focuses on the visual aspect of DegreeWorks, more specifically progression through categories. Before, only the number of applied and required credits was shown. We wanted to show the completion status through an indicator. We went through two prototypes shown here. Progression, shown as a percentage, 0 through 100, to the right of the credit information, and also a status bar, shown in green to the right of the credit information as well. We found that both were great visual indicators, and they had the idea to combine these two into one singular prototype. Transitioning from a bar into an ellipse, the status bar now surrounds the percentage, adding visual cues to that section. For our final prototype, we went a step further and added a feature that when hovered over, the percentage would show a fraction of the credits applied and required. The testing protocol for this design would be a survey asking if the user found this visual feature useful during their session. We also asked the user if they felt that this feature was too visually cluttered. This feedback allows us to not only see if the feature is being used, but if the visual indicator achieved its goal of progression clarity.
Hello, my name is Luan Ho, and I will be reviewing 3 user stories from Team AMR. The first one states that, as a colorblind student, I want to be able to select different color schemes for the website so that I be able to view important information without visual obstruction. Our first design was adding a accessibility tab into the navigation bar. It would lead us to this page where users can select different color schemes for the website that they want. The second idea was that upon entering DegreeWorks, a little questionnaire box would pop up on the screen before you're able to do anything else. Users would have to scroll through every colorblind option that they want, select one or select none at all, click finish, and then now they're able to do anything else that they want on DegreeWorks. Ultimately, we decided to go for the first design. To give an example, we have developed a prototype in which users can click on the accessibility tab from DegreeWorks homepage. It will lead us to this page where we can scroll through the different types of colorblind modes. And then once we go back to the DegreeWorks homepage, all the color schemes will change. The data collected will be observation statistics on how many users are accessing the accessibility tab, as well as the percentage of different colorblind scheme options used. We will organize this data as percentages of the total user population. We will analyze the data in respect to the user population. For this user story, it means that what percentage of users are clicking on the accessibility tab and what percentage of users are using each colorblind scheme option. This data will assist in showing us how easy colorblind students are able to find accessibility options and how many of them are actually using these options. We can determine the success of the design if we are able to compare the number of people who are using our colorblind options to the percentage of those who are colorblind in the population. Since all of our data is coming from users accessing different components to an online website, the same approach will be used as the pandemic won't have any effect on people's ability to use our website. The second user story states that, as a student, I want to be able to collapse each section of requirements in DegreeWorks so that I can view what sections I need to focus on. The first design we had was creating drop-down arrows for every single section on DegreeWorks. When users click on these arrows, it will either expand or collapse each section. The second design was having a central box in which users are able to checkmark which section they would like to view. Sections with checkmarks on them will expand them, and sections without checkmarks on them will not expand them. The sections that are highlighted in red means that they are simply just not complete yet. We ultimately decided to go for the second design, in which users can click on each arrow to expand or collapse each section. The data collected will be in the form of an online survey only accessible to those who have used DegreeWorks before. We will allow users to use a section of DegreeWorks in the form of our prototype. After usage, we will ask them to compare the old design versus our design. Our survey will ask users questions such as, is the new design easier to use? Which design do you prefer? And which design allows for more focus of information? Answers to these questions will be yes/no and old/new. With the data collected, we will analyze the proportion of yes/no or old/new answers to the population. This way, we can easily observe if users prefer the old or new design based on their answers. Since our data is coming in the form of an online survey, the same approach will be used without any regard for the pandemic, as it will not change anything. The third user story states that, as a student, I want to be able to view each plan from my advisors in neat and organized ways so that I have an easier time navigating and accessing them. The first design was that when a user clicked on the Plans tab of DegreeWorks, they would be greeted with this page. This design automatically filters out every plan by its year given. For example, if I wanted to see a plan given to me in my sophomore year, I would look at the year 2020 to 2021. This design removes unnecessary filters from the old design. The second design used was keeping the interface the same, however, adding a filter button in which users can filter by. This filter button allows users to filter by year, semester, or date added. Ultimately, we decided to go with the first plan. In this prototype, users can click on the Plans tab of DegreeWorks, and they'll be greeted with this page. As you can see, every plan is already filtered by the year that it was given. The data collected will also be in the form of an online survey, only accessible to those who have used DegreeWorks before. We will allow users to use a section of DegreeWorks in the form of our prototype, as just shown. After usage, we will ask them to compare the old design versus our design. Our survey will ask questions such as, is the new design easier to use? Which design do you prefer? And which design allows for easier access of information? With the data collected, we will analyze the proportion of yes or no answers or old/new answers. This way, we can easily observe if users prefer the new or old design based on what their answer is. Similar to user story 2, since our data is coming from the form of an online survey, the same approach will be used as the pandemic will not have an effect on this. Finally, I have learned that during the time spent on this project, there are so many steps to go towards good design. From brainstorming ideas, doing adequate research, and implementing many versions of your ideas into designs, this process has taught me how to take things step by step. Rather than rushing into a final project, gather and make use of all your resources and take it slow. This project has taught me how to efficiently make good design decisions, and that includes thinking about how it may affect others. Something useful I've learned was how to conduct research when trying to make a decision. Having supporting evidence for your claims makes them so much stronger, and it allows you to create a good product without uncertainty.
Thanks, Alon. My name is Aniket Narayanan, and I want to talk about the 2 user stories and the development of the 2 user stories relating to help and relating to design. In terms of help, when we approached the first user story, which was, as a student, I want to be able to ask questions that, if not answered, can be answered at some point. Our team found 2 separate ideas to be most effective. The first being an Ask an Expert option that opens an AI chatbot to answer more specific questions about the site, and a secondary option to have an FAQ section directly integrated into the website, which is currently not what DegreeWorks has, as it now has a pop-up or pop-out FAQ that moves the user away from the actual tab itself. Our team ended up deciding upon using the first user story as most effective after doing further research into the use of AI chatbots and answering user questions to improve clarity and intuitiveness in websites. Moving to the high fidelity model, we can see that a user can click the Ask an Expert option to open up a chatbot that allows for the user to interact directly with the DegreeWorks chatbot. This way, users can best answer their questions and get the best answers to their questions from the AI chatbot, as it has a self-learning model. Now, moving on to the design aspect, our team had 2 separate ideas for the user story of, as a student, I want to be able to differentiate different sections of the website easily. The first of which was allowing users to zoom into text using a magnifying glass function that would afford users magnification or magnifying into more intricate details of the website. The second idea was incorporating a day/night mode toggle feature that would allow users to differentiate different sections by changing the display of the website itself or the design of the website itself through this day-night mode toggle. After our team did further research into increasing accessibility as well as the visuals of a website, we determined that the first idea relating to a magnifying glass functionality would be best suited for the DegreeWorks rework. Now, moving to the high fidelity model of this, we can see that right here, we can see that the feature would work by clicking the option right here, which would then toggle a color change signifying that the functionality is currently in use. The magnifying glass then zooms into any part of the page that the user is currently hovering over to increase the accessibility of that information by visually enlarging it so that it is in the viewer's focus. Now, I also want to talk about how we ended up determining how we would best approach our research in terms of testing out the actual effectiveness of these different functionalities or changes that we have proposed to make in the DegreeWorks rework. So in terms of our protocol or design, we have focused on focus groups, or we plan to use focus groups to gather this information. Fortunately, these different focus groups can test multiple functionalities from different user stories as well, as some of them relate. Now, in terms of the first option with the AI chatbot, we're testing to see if users feel like this type of conversational style feels more interactive and feels like the user is actually speaking to something that has better answers that they would have not otherwise gotten from a Google search or from an FAQ section. In addition to this, we want to determine if users are less or more inclined to reach out to a third party, such as an advisor, when faced with questions that are a little bit more challenging in terms of finding the answers to. Should we see a reduction in the likelihood to do this, then we can mark one of points of effectiveness for this. In terms of the magnification, we want to determine if users are finding the magnification tool to actually be efficient or an effective way of introducing differentiation into the different sections of DegreeWorks itself. Now I'm going to pass it on to Arthur to wrap us all up and discuss the final parts of the design for the user story, as well as the different roles that members of our team were a part of.
So I will now be going over the user story. As a visually impaired student, I want parts of DegreeWorks to be audible so that I know the courses that I have taken, or what is required for graduation. And in this design, it shows how at first we wanted to make it where it's only either the larger sections that get the text-to-speech function or the smaller sections, like the subsections. Well, over time, we decided that maybe that is not the best idea, because why can't we just do both? And as you can see in this prototype, we can do both. Or we can do both as it is seen here. And also in this design, we didn't have the little text box that shows up whenever you clicked one of these buttons. And in this design we do. For example, I'll show you here now. When I click this, realistically, it is supposed to give off a text-to-speech function that will state this paragraph right here, but now it will also show a box where you can read what the text-to-speech function is saying, and again, you can close it too. So that is what's something that is different with our final design of this user story. And the data that we will be collecting will be based on focus observation statistics of users' clicks on the speaker icons that give the text-to-speech function. And this data will be organized as percentages of the total user population that are visually impaired. With this analysis, we will be able to compare how many visually impaired students are clicking and accessing the text-to-speech function within DegreeWorks. And by comparing the number of each visually impaired users using the text-to-speech function, we can then determine the success of its usefulness as it concerns to the accessibility of the application. And I'll now move on to the user story. As a student, I want to easily move from certain sections in DegreeWorks so that I can navigate the application better. So in our proposed solution, we just wanted a navigation bar or button, and when you click it, you can also click on these various links to go to those sections in DegreeWorks. Well, what changed is now when you click it, again, it'll show it, but after you click it, it will also highlight the area or highlight which one you clicked, so then it will the user will also be able to know what area they are in case they accidentally click a different link. And there's also the show more function, where when you click the show more, you can go to all of the areas of DegreeWorks and you can navigate through those. And we also added where when you re-click the navigation, it will just close. And also same thing with the collapse. When you re-click it, it'll go back down to something smaller, and then you can also click navigation again to just get rid of it overall. And with this design, the data that we'll be collecting will be through the use of online surveys where users are able to compare the original DegreeWorks to the prototypes that we have here. And in the case of this user story, some questions asked may be like, did you find this feature more convenient, or how often were you using this design feature? The answers will be given in yes or no questions and ratings from 1 to 10. So for the how often you're using this design feature, somebody can put a 7 out of 10, and we can interpret that as around 70%. And for the analysis, by using the answers from the surveys, we'll be able to determine if the users agree with the new design features. And based on the question, yes or no may go for or against our new features, as we do not want biased questioning as well. And we can determine how successful our group design is by seeing how many people enjoyed and used our new features. And from this project, what I've learned during this time working on the project is I've learned a lot about new and different perspectives. I think it is one of the most useful parts of the class, as it allowed me to think more outside of the box. And just because it's not your problem doesn't mean that it isn't a problem for somebody else. And it also just takes a lot of thinking power to come up with new things that do not pertain to you. And the one part that I enjoyed the most about this class is playing around with Figma. I think Figma is a really cool application where you can essentially create whatever application you want with the many tools it provides to design those applications. And I will definitely be using it in the future. And just to conclude a little, for our team, we all worked on this project with through parts A and B together, but we individually made the flows for the prototypes and these videos that we're doing right now. Thank you.